good morning. To begin today's proceedings, we would first like to invite Mr. Humayun Beg for the recitation of the Holy Quran, followed by Dr. Arsalan Qayyum for the translation.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الذين يأكلون الربا لا يقومون إلا كما يقوم الذي يتخبطه الشيطان من المس ذلك بأنهم قالوا إنما البيع مثل الربا وأحل الله البيع وحرم الربا فمن جاءه موعظة من ربه فانتهى فله ما سلف وأمره إلى الله ومن عاد فأولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون يمحق الله الربا ويربي الصدقات والله لا يحب كل كفار أثيم آمنت بالله صدق الله العظيم.
In the name of Allah, the most beneficent and the most merciful. Those who consume interest cannot stand on the day of resurrection, except as one stands who is being beaten by Satan into insanity. That is because they say trade is just like interest, but Allah has permitted trade and has forbidden interest. So whoever has received an admonition from his Lord and deceased may have what is past, and his affairs rest with Allah. But whoever returns to dealing in interest and usury, those are the companions of the fire. They will abide eternally therein. Allah destroys interest and gives increase for charities, and Allah does not like every sinning disbeliever. Sadaqallahul Azim.
Thank you. My name is Juveria Beg, and I will be the host for this session today. I would like to welcome you all to the 8th edition of IOBM's International Conference on Islamic Banking and Finance. This year's theme, Innovation and Sustainability, Role of Islamic Banking and Finance in Navigating the Future Landscape, aims to provide an unparalleled platform for exploring the transformative impact of Islamic banking and finance on global economy. For the inaugural session, if I could invite our distinguished speakers and our chief guest to the stage. I'd like to invite Mr. Saleem Ullah, Deputy Governor, Finance and Inclusion and Innovation, State Bank of Pakistan, our chief guest for today. Sir. Next, I'd like to invite Mr. Bashir Jan Mohammed, Chancellor IOBM, to the stage. Mr. Yusuf Hussain, President and CEO, Faisal Bank Limited. Dr. Ishrat Husain, ex-Governor SBP and advisor to PM. Mr. Talib Kareem, President, IOBM. Mr. Syed Amir Ali, Deputy CEO, Mizan Bank Limited. Mr. Rizwan Atta, President and CEO, Bank Islami Private Limited. Okay. And Mr. Atif Hanif, President and CEO, Al Baraka Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could ask you all to rise for the national anthem of Pakistan. On the proceedings of this conference and what it has in store for all of us, I would like to invite Dr. Mohammad Kashif, Dean College of Business Management, to take us through the conference flow.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi habli hukma wa lakni bis salihin. O Lord, grant me wisdom and join me among the righteous. Respectable Deputy Governor, State Bank, Pakistan, Honorable Chancellor, President IOBM, distinguished guests, esteemed scholars and participants, Assalamu alaikum. First and foremost, let us express our gratitude to Allah, the Almighty, for His grace and guidance that we have enabled us to come together for this significant event. The 8th International Conference on Islamic Banking and Finance brings together experts, scholars, policymakers from over 20 countries united by shared commitment to advancing the field of Islamic banking and finance. The theme of this year's conference, Innovation and Sustainability, the role of Islamic banking and finance in navigating the future landscape, is both timely and essential. As we face global transformations, Islamic finance offers an ethical framework that stands as a model of responsible practices in an era of rapid technological, economic, and environmental changes. This two-day conference is structured to provide platform for thought-provoking discussion, insightful presentations, and collaborative engagements. We have a rich lineup of sessions planned to explore the intersection of innovation and sustainability in Islamic and banking and finance. The session includes inaugural addresses from the distinguished leaders and experts in the field of finance. This will set the tone of this conference. Keynote speeches by the renowned scholars and industry experts, offering deep insight into the latest trend, research, and innovation shaping the future of Islamic finance. Panel discussion will feature experts from academia, industry, and regulatory bodies. These panels will cover a wide range of topics such as financial inclusion, digital transformation, responsible investment, and integration of sustainability principle into Islamic banking practices. The most important, the networking breaks, designed to facilitate meaningful connection among the participant, enabling opportunities for collaboration and partnership beyond this conference. This conference will also include special session dedicated to explore the role of Islamic finance in achieving SDGs, showcasing how Islamic banking can contribute to a more equitable and sustainable financial ecosystem. As we embark to this journey, over the next 2 days, I encourage you to all participate actively, engage with your peers, and draw your diverse perspective gathered here. This conference is more than a forum for dialogue, but it is a catalyst for actionable strategies that can shape the future of Islamic banking finance. I extend my heartfelt appreciation to our sponsors, partners, and organizing committee, especially Professor Dr. Imamuddin, Director, Islamic Research Center at IOBM, whose dedication has been instrumental in bringing this event to life. A special thanks also to the higher management of IOBM for their unwavering support. We hope this conference inspires new ideas, foster collaboration, and contributes to the advancement of Islamic banking finance on the global scale. Thank you once again for being here. We look forward for a fruitful and impactful conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kashif. If I could invite President IOBM, Mr. Taleb S. Karim, to deliver his welcome address.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Honorable Deputy Governor, Mr. Saleem Ullah, our Chief Guest, Dr. Ishrat Husain, Mr. Bashir Jan Mohammed, 4 very distinguished presidents of Bank Islami, Faisal Bank, Mizan, and Al-Barqa, Mr. Jahangir Siddiqui, our board member, distinguished guests, scholars, Assalamu alaikum and good morning. It is indeed a great pleasure for us to host the 8th Islamic Banking and Finance Conference. This year we made it a little bit different. We thought that let's have an inaugural session in a hotel. Usually we host this conference at our campus, but we will move to our campus tomorrow for remaining sessions. And this is all possible because of support from banks present here, because without their support, I don't think we could have been able to, or we would have been able to host such a large event. I think as an educational institute, I think it has become our responsibility and challenge on how to educate our students or future leaders towards the transformation of financial institutions in Pakistan from conventional to Islamic. I think whenever I talk to CEOs and presidents, I think the biggest concern is the shortage of manpower or the knowledge itself. So I think as an educational institution, we have to play our role and impart knowledge to our students by incorporating Islamic finance in our curriculum, which we have started doing now in all our programs. If the country goes to 100% Islamic finance or banking in the next few years, then we have to prepare our youth for that. And I think a lot of universities and education institutions are on that path to impart such knowledge. We are very fortunate that we have international scholars. As usual, they come here every year, as far as from USA, from New Orleans to UK, to Malaysia, to Bahrain, and other part of the world. A lot of our scholars are online, so what I'm told that there'll be over 30 international scholars participating in this. 10 are present here in person, and 20 would be online. So I think a lot of learning will take place today and tomorrow. And Dr. Ishrat asked me that how would we, expand this thing to other sector of the society. And I told him that we have a very strong social media. And right now, as I speak, I think messages are going across about this conference and about this topic. So again, I won't take much time because I think each one of us have 10 minutes, not more than that, so that we complete or finish our inaugural session on time. I again thank all of you, sir, to be here. One thing which might change, Dr. Saab, in future would be more gender balance. So as we see in the hall, so there are about maybe 98% or 95% in favor of my gender as opposed to, so hopefully, once more young leaders come out of institutions, we'll see more of that balance in this field. So thank you again, and I wish all of you a very successful conference today and tomorrow. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you, sir. We have a stellar lineup of speakers for the inaugural session. I'd like to invite our first speaker, Dr. Kabir Hassan. Dr. Kabir is a leading financial economist and expert in Islamic finance. He has over 329 publications and is a full professor at the University of New Orleans and has advised top global institutions like the World Bank and IMF. Dr. Kabir.
Where is my, okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Distinguished guests on the dais and also very distinguished audience. So I was given 10 minutes. Let me see what I can do. I want to touch base on the future of Islamic finance. So it started according to the study that in 1975, 50 years old, is all over the world. About 1,200, and the size of the industry is also growing. But if you look at the evolution of Islamic finance, in 2008 and 9, it was less than $1 trillion. During 2019-20, it really increased a lot. But ultimately, what we want to see, that Islamic finance industry become actually a significant portion of the world financial ecosystem. So our goal is to reach 20 trillion mark. But the way we are approaching right now, for the last 15 years, is less than 1%. And if we do not really change our mindset and the industry move in the right direction in terms of curriculum, capital development, human capital, it still will remain at 1% level. So our challenge is how we can make it more than 1% in next 50 years. This is fresh out of press. The LSEG, it was formally definitive. According to their statistics, still the 72% of the industry are banking. And the banks, there's a lot of question about how much a bank can do because of this risk parameter it has to play with, the model that it has. Now, what are the foundational pieces of Islamic finance? Of course, the Quran and Sunnah is the starting point. It's rooted in divine law. It promotes economic justice. It always encourages circulation of wealth. And of course, there has to be a real activity attached to any financial activity. And risk sharing is encouraged. Now, given this, what is the difference between a conventional framework and Islamic framework? Now, in Islamic framework, we say that investing in ethically equity-based economy, whereas conventional framework is more or like debt-based. In Islamic framework is always a positive sum game, win-win. In conventional framework, it's a zero-sum game. In Islamic, there has to be a connection between finance and real activity. In conventional one is more geared towards creating debt. And risk-sharing principle in Islamic and risk transferring principle in conventional. And then we see that Islamic finance should promote social equity into the system. So Islamic finance, the impact on the values, we very often take Islamic finance out of the bigger Islamic economic framework. Islamic finance should be means towards achieving Islamic economic objectives. Now, man's existence in this world has a divine purpose. It only provides a limited role of debt. It discourages wealth accumulation through debt. It prefers wealth accumulation through kirat. Balances the needs of individual with the needs of the society. Religious values and economics are inseparable within this framework. And man's desire are subject to Sharia limitation, and man owns wealth as a trustee from God. Now, given this, it's not moving, okay. So, is the impact of values on the idea of Islamic economics? So, definitely it promotes profligate habits, it imbues buy, live now, the way the indiscriminate expansion of debt-oriented products that we see in the Western world. It increases wealth concentration among the rich. It induces systemic risk, inhibits kirat type of transactions, and imposes a debt burden on the society. So given this, what we want actually, that 2080 balance that we see, 20% is risk-sharing principle and 80% debt-based principle, we really want to transfer into 80-20 framework. Now, if you look at the financialization of the world, whether it's in conventional space or Islamic space, is very huge. In 2010 figure, that the fictional financial economy of the world was 26 times more than the world can really produces. So Islamic finance is anti-debt and more pro-equity, but in order to achieve that, we really need to increase our human capital and so on. Now, Islamic finance is not only for the rich people. I mean, it does not discourage that you make profit in a halal way. So we really need to combine the Islamic commercial finance, which really promotes the industry and businesses, with the Islamic social finance, which brings the lower middle class, the poor people within the framework. Now, if you look, one of the leading Pakistani economists, Umar Chopra, said the Islamic economic system is based on the paradigm of Islamic principles that aim to realize the well-being of all human beings on earth. Now, Al-Ghazali, the Maqasid of Sharia, we like to quote very often. The objectives of Sharia aim to promote welfare of the people, which lies in safeguarding their faith, their life, their intellect, their posterity, and their wealth. Now, it's not only the Islamic economists, the conventional economists also talks about the values. Another quote from Umar Chopra, the greatest challenge facing the Islamic finance industry is to capture the essence of Islamic principles and values. Now, we try to incorporate Maqasid of Sharia in product development, and AOFI is playing a very critical role, and there's a lot of Pakistani economist origin is working there. Actually, it's run by Umar Mustafa Ansari, who is a very competent person. We have really brought a lot of product development and guidelines for promoting the Islamic finance industry. But the question is, when we say the standardization, why the Islamic finance industry is still less than 1%? We do not have a standardization. We do not have a cross-border, capital flows. So what AOFI did, it tried to bring all different madhabs four madhabs together in order to develop different framework to promote the Islamic finance industry. And in my lecture, I talk about the different types of contract, how they combine the Maliki school, Hanafi school, Hanbali school, and so on. So there are a combination of contracts. We have a Murabaha, where the principles are being brought together. We have also another example that I give, that Ijara is Muntaha Bitmik. Now, these are some of the examples that being, so I'm not really a pessimistic person. When I say it's less than 1%, we can bring in more than 1%, but we have to do it right. So legal pluralism plays gives a flexibility rather than a dichotomy among the jurisprudential schools. In Islamic finance, the acceptance and amalgamation of jurisprudential schools into unified standards reflect a form of unification. We are potentially in transition period towards unified opinions accepted by the global Islamic community. So, Amartya Sen said, economics without ethics is a caricature. Ethics without economics is a fairy tale. And Islamic finance is trying to fill this gap. Lionel Robbins said economics is independent of ethical or moral consideration on the other extreme. Then what we need to see, the ethics in Islamic finance, what is the role of ethics? Moving beyond compliance, the Islamic finance industry started out with the negative screening and fulfilling bare minimum Sharia compliance requirements. Approximately 50 years later, the emphasis on negative screening is still there. On the other hand, there are important developments in the conventional finance industry, mostly voluntary initiatives, as did in everything you talk about, which are encouraging banks to progress towards positive screening beyond just financial returns, like value-based banking in Malaysia, responsible banking, impact investing, and focus on broader stakeholders through ESG have become the catchphrases even in mainstream conventional finance. So Islamic finance industry is at risk of becoming irrelevant and outdated if it does not align itself with the contemporary value-based paradigm. So if you look at something I borrowed from one of these study, now we talk about the framework, the compliance, legal compliance. We need to make it halal. We need to make it even better. What is tayyib? Tayyib is better than halal. And in order to do this, we really need to emphasize on the human capital development in Islamic finance industry, which is very much missing. Now, having said this, I come from the West. Now, Peter Drucker, one of the management gurus, said that efficiency is doing things right. Effectiveness is doing the right things. The question is, are we doing the right things? E.J. Robinson said the great merit of the capitalist system, it has been said, is that it succeeds in using nastiest motives of nasty people for the ultimate benefit of the society. If the nastiest people with nastiest motives can do something good for the society, we are the good people. On the Islamic finance industry, Muslim Ummah should do better than this. So what does it mean? So we need a mechanism, a merchant. The worthiest of earnings are those of the merchant who, if they are spoken to, do not lie. If they are trusted, do not betray. If they promise, do not fail. If they buy, do not condemn. If they sell, do not extol. If they owe, do not delay. And if they are owed, do not press. The question is, how many of us are like this? Now, let me just quickly, because I have been talking about time frame. So, recently, the Nobel Prize was won by the institutional economist. So, you have read this book. I think I want to ask you to read this, Why Nations Fail, The Origins of Power, Prosperity, and Poverty. It is the institution that determines the fate of nations. Success comes, the authors say, when political and economic institutions are inclusive and pluralistic, creating incentives for everyone to invest in the future. And nations fail when institutions are extractive, protecting the political and economic power of only a small elite that takes income from everyone else. So we need to develop our institution, education institution, political organizations, economic organizations, and so on. Final few slides. Now the question is, how do we westernize? I mean, is it westernization something bad? Now there are different models: westernization by adopting Western popular culture, adopting Western lifestyle, or westernization by adopting Western work ethics, Western business ethics, and adopting Western governance ethics. So now the question is, do you want to be happy animal, unhappy human being, or happy human? Now we definitely want to be happy human. Now the question is, how do we do this? If we ignore the West completely, we'll be unhappy human. If we imitate the West for its thinking values, we'll be happy animal. If we imitate the West for its uplifting values, we'll be happy human being. So Islamic finance, last brand, is a finance for people of all faith and beliefs. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Dr. Kabir. If I could invite our second distinguished speaker, Mr. Ishrat Husain, President and CEO of Faisal Bank Limited. Mr. Yusuf brings over 26 years of experience in banking, including roles at ABN AMRO, Samba Bank, Mashreq, and Mobilink. Since joining Faisal Bank in 2008, he has driven its strategic shift to Islamic banking, leveraging his expertise in corporate transaction and investment banking. Yusuf sir.
लाइट बंद नहीं हो सकती? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Distinguished guests, Dr. Ishrat, Talib Rizvi Saab, Deputy Governor Saab, Bashir Jan Muhammad Saab, and my dear CEO colleagues, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So it's a real privilege to be here to discuss innovation and sustainability, the role of Islamic banking and finance in navigating the future landscape. Before we go into the details, there has been a talk about the maqasid of Sharia and the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. And I just want to read through these 17 goals, and I just want you to ponder upon that how close they are to whatever is being taught in Quran and practiced in Hadith. So these 17 SDGs are no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequality, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice, and strong institutions and partnerships for these goals. Let's think about it for a second, that these are all, in a way, derivatives from the Quran. And a lot of these things are sort of written over there so many years ago and being put into a framework by the entire world. And this promotes, obviously, sustainability and the future of this planet. So let's, during the next 2 days, let's think about these things as well. So as the CEO of Faisal Bank, which has recently completed the world's largest conversion to Islamic banking, I'm honored to share some insights on how Islamic finance can lead the way in terms of building resilient economies rooted in ethical and sustainable practices. As it was spoken before me, Islamic finance is not merely a financial model. It is a commitment to principles that drive meaningful change in societies. Our work reflects a holistic approach to development, one that finds common ground with the Sustainable Development Goals. Islamic teachings call for economic equity, environmental stewardship, and social justice. Core values are embedded in both SDGs and the Quranic guidance for how we should live and work. So there has to be a purpose. So, we always monitor profitability as the main sort of goal of existence of any organization. The world has really changed. Now there are multiple parameters. There are multiple community development, society development parameters that the success of the organizations is being evaluated. And this is what Islamic finance is all about. So I cannot, during this 10 minutes, I cannot basically cover the entire spectrum, but let's cover a few points. One of the things that is being pursued and should be pursued is green financing initiatives for sustainable growth. Islamic finance institutions have a clear responsibility, and I'm not just talking about the profitability side of it, but it's more to support environmental sustainability, a principle which is deeply rooted in our faith. So Islamic banking, I always call about our conversion that it was a story of faith and belief. So that is what our existence really is for, that whenever we're working for a financial institutions, our role should just be more than just profitability. So in Surah Al-An'am, ayat 141, Allah reminds us, and do not waste resources, for indeed He does not like the wasteful. This guidance really aligns with the environmental SDGs, encouraging to avoid waste and conserve resources for future generations. So clearly this green financing is a central pillar, or should be a central pillar of Islamic banking. Green Sukuk, for example, is a powerful tool which allows investors to support renewable energy as a sustainable infrastructure and water management projects. Islamic banks worldwide should and maybe are playing a lead role in this financing. It's more than the end financing. It is actually the engagement of all the banks and in turn the retail depositors, if you come to think about it, in terms of improving the world around us, the green financing. So another point I think is most important is expanding financial inclusion through digital microfinance. Again, financial inclusion is a fundamental objective of Islamic finance, and reaching underserved population is essential to our mission. Nearly 2 billion globally remain unbanked, with a large population in Muslim majority areas. Islamic finance has the unique ability to bring economic empowerment to these communities, supporting the SDGs of reducing inequality and promoting economic growth. So this digital microfinance solutions are really sort of the name of the game and exactly match with the SDGs and the Islamic finance principles. So our beloved Prophet said that the best of the people are those who are most beneficial to people. Islamic finance through microfinance initiatives embodies the teaching by supporting entrepreneurship and communities to achieve economic independence. Then basically embracing technology and supporting fintech innovation. Again, in this age, technology is not an option. Islamic banks are and must be proactive in integrating digital tools to enhance efficiency, transparency. Digital transformation helps to enable more customers, streamline processes, and provide services aligned with Sharia principles in an efficient way. To foster innovation, Islamic banks should, and in some countries they are, supporting fintech startups. For this transformation on the digital front to succeed, a supportive regulatory framework is essential. And the policymakers, Sir Deputy Governor Saab, should provide guidance, and they are in many ways, for associated issues like digital security, promote ethical fintech, and allow Islamic banks to drive responsible digital innovation. And then I think the fundamental of Islamic banking is that it is an asset-based financing. So really, if you come to think of it as the economic foundation, whenever you are financing something which is real, which is actually contributing towards the development of an industry, the promotion of and growth of the economy. So I think that fundamental itself has a real multiplier effect. So it creates employment, it creates industries, it promotes businesses. So I think that's another area which is extremely important. And my fellow speaker who spoke about ethical practices and social responsibility, I think absolutely critical. And that's why in many countries who are not Islamic in terms of their religious preference, Islamic banking is still being promoted. So a robust Sharia governance framework is essential to maintain the ethical foundation. Sharia boards composed of respected scholars provide oversight in every product, transaction, and policy that aligns with the principles of justice, transparency, and accountability. So if you think about ESG, which is really being talked about today, it's really a derivative of what Quran says. So it's about sustainable growth, Islamic finance emphasis on social equity and justice, the Maqasid-e-Sharia that was spoken about, mirror ESG's commitment to social and governance excellence, while teachings on environmental stewardship complement ESG's focus on mitigating environmental impact. Together, they represent a shared commitment to long-term ethical growth. So, another area that Islamic banks are engaged are the CSR and the charity aspect. So you would see Islamic banks participating wholeheartedly in the activities for the less privileged. In conclusion, the Islamic finance has the potential to reshape the global financial landscape by aligning economic activity with the values of justice, compassion, and responsibility. The road ahead requires collaboration between governments, financial institutions, and communities. By embracing technology, supporting green finance, expanding financial inclusion, promoting asset-backed growth, and upholding ethical practices, we can build a resilient, inclusive, and sustainable financial ecosystem, which is really required, that serves us common good. Together, we have the tools to create fairer, more prosperous economy that reflects the highest ideals of Islamic values. It is a value-based financial system, clearly. So as we look to the future, let us remember that wealth is, as a trial, carries a responsibility to uplift, to safeguard, and to steward it wisely for the benefit of all of us and all around us. Thank you for your attention, and may Allah Ta'ala guide us on this journey of growth and service. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. For our third distinguished speaker, if I could invite Mr. Atif Hanif, CEO, Al Baraka Bank Pakistan Limited. Mr. Atif is a seasoned banker with over 24 years of experience and specializes in Islamic banking and growth strategies. Atif, sir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dr. Ishrat Husain Sahab, Saleem Ullah Sahab, Deputy Governor of State Bank, Bashir Jan Muhammad Sahab, my fellow CEOs of Islamic banks and scholars from Pakistan and abroad, and ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. A lot has been said, and there are so many scholarly participation here already, which are going to speak. I will just like to mention that I see Islamic banking as one of the most promising and amazingly growing potential, not only in Pakistan but internationally. When we see the share of Islamic bank in Pakistan, it is 22%, while our population is 97% Muslims. Likewise, in Malaysia, the population of Muslims is 63%, but the share of Islamic banking is 46%. When we see globally, the share of Islamic banking is 1% against the population of 25% Muslims across the globe. And in places like Europe and UK even, the population of Muslims is 6 to 7%, which are they are more hungry for Islamic banking than even the Muslims in Muslim countries. So there's a lot of potential for Islamic banks and the Islamic bankers to come up with ideas, innovations, creativity, and growth and development. The challenges, obviously, for Pakistan is, number one, inclusion. As we are by and large an unbanked society, and although fintechs are playing a big role, there are 66 million accounts with the 22 commercial banks in Pakistan, out of which 30 million are dormant accounts. 35 million are active accounts with the 22 commercial banks in Pakistan. If you net off the duplication, there are maximum 20 million account holders in the commercial banks. Although fintechs and branchless banking have about 111 million accounts, but they also have duplications and they are mostly transaction accounts. So there's a lot of potential for financial inclusion in Pakistan. But when it comes to conversion, now conversion is also a big challenge, although the regulatory requirements now are encouraging the banks to convert. But the size of the conventional banks is about $160 billion in Pakistan. And out of 200, another aspect of this conversion is that out of 200,000 employees in Pakistan, in banking industry, 50,000 relate to Islamic banking and about 150,000 employees relate to conventional banking. So the training and understanding of the Islamic banking and finance for such a large number is obviously a big challenge which needs to be addressed. But how we are looking at Al Baraka Bank. Al Baraka Bank, as you know, has been in here for 30 years. We were among the first financial Islamic institutions in Pakistan in 1992. And we have only embarked on the relaunch journey of the bank 2 years ago. So the way we are expanding in Pakistan, number one, obviously the brick and mortar growth by expanding branches. But also we have a very robust digital strategy to be able to provide all the products and services which any digital bank can provide in 4 to 5 years' time. So we look at our small network not as a disadvantage, but as we look at it as half glass full rather than half glass empty, because if we are a complete digital bank with 200 plus branches, then obviously we are more competitive than any digital bank, and at the same time we are growing in branches as well. But what we are also focusing on is our strength, global strength. And we are using the digital technology to capitalize and maximize the potential of business growth for Al Baraka in Pakistan. One of the initiatives that we took, we are in 13 countries. So what we did, we started the inter-franchise trade portal. And we started with South Africa. There are 12 sectors from which Pakistan exports to South Africa. So we chose 60 leading exporters of those 12 sectors from Pakistan. And our counterparts chose 40 leading importers from the same sectors in South Africa. We developed a portal and uploaded the information of Pakistani exporters and their importers, and then we held a webinar in which we connected digitally, virtually, all these traders from Pakistan and South Africa. And it coincided with the situation that South Africa, which is predominantly an Indian rice market, India had banned rice export last year. So our rice exporters took full advantage of that portal and got connected to the rice buyers in South Africa. We held the second webinar with Egypt, And third webinar we just held with Bahrain. We have another webinar coming up with Turkey by the end of this month. So far, we have uploaded 150 leading exporters of Pakistan and connected them with buyers in these non-traditional export markets of Pakistan, which is actually how we are actually contributing not only to the exports of Pakistan, but using digital modes for expanding our business. 70% of these exporters were never our customers, so now they have become our customers, and it is impacting our trade and asset growth. Another area where we are focusing is since we are considering that we have to have a niche focus on our target market. So we have selected Hajj and Umrah business as something which suits our Islamic brand as well, and also our philosophy. So Alhamdulillah, within 2 years, we have now 65% market share of the private Hajj business in Pakistan. And we are coming up with a digital bank in Saudi Arabia very soon, by second quarter of next year. So that will provide us a big synergy to not only serve the Hajj companies that we are dealing with, but also make further inroads in this segment and provide services to the Hajj and Umrah pilgrims. And this is a big market for Islamic banks. In addition, I think there's a lot of requirement for that when Pakistan is going to have the biggest conversion ever in the history of banking industry globally. Pakistan will become a big market, big Islamic banking stakeholder globally. And internationally, especially in the non-Muslim countries, where Pakistanis are also in very large numbers, I think we need to expand our marketing and awareness outreach beyond Pakistan as well. For example, I met the Secretary General of the Azerbaijan Chamber of Commerce and Industry, a lady who is trying to develop Islamic banking in Azerbaijan. She asked me a very basic question: can women open account in Islamic banks? So I was stunned. In Pakistan, we have products where we incentivize women to open accounts. They have no free lockers, free checkbooks, free debit cards. Another gentleman in London asked me, can Islamic banking offer mortgage financing? Now, I think we, as Pakistani Islamic bankers, should also take this responsibility of expanding the awareness to the at least Pakistani community internationally. Because our experts are very rapidly tilting towards the right, towards the religious and faith-based, and they need answers to the Sharia compliant banking. Also, I would like to mention that the awareness and the potential of Islamic banking in Pakistan is more towards the rural and underdeveloped areas and smaller cities than the large 5 or 10 cities. As we generally see that most of the focus of the awareness campaigns and the conferences is on the large cities, but the real requirement of the awareness and the trainings lies in the rural area of Pakistan. So what we have done, that we have started ulama conferences. And with these ulama conferences, we invite about 100 people in every locality where we have branch. And the SOP is that we invite at least 20 khatib of masajid and 80 existing and potential customers. Reason being, the strongest voice in our community is the ulama of the khatib of the masajid, who say that sood is haram. Sood haram hai, but they never say Islamic banking is halal. So it blocks the entire banking sector for those people who are Sharia sensitive. So the objective is that they should start accepting that Islamic banking is halal and make a distinction between Islamic and conventional banking. Our ulama conferences are very successful, and wherever we do, after that there's a big influx of account opening in especially small cities. So I will request all my colleagues and scholars to try to expand this outreach of training and conferences to the smaller cities where the real potential of Islamic banking is. Because all the surveys that have been conducted regarding financial inclusion, it has been observed that the biggest bottleneck is the Sharia sensitivity of our population. Thank you.
Thank you, Atif sir. I'd like to invite Syed Amir Ali, Deputy CEO at Mizan Bank. Sir Amir Saab has led, has had a stellar experience in the financial sector. He has led roles across AF Ferguson, Shell, and Bank Islami, and currently is Deputy CEO at Mizan Bank. Amir Saab.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Honorable Dr. Ishrat Husain, President, Institute of Business Management, Talib Kareem Saab, Chairman, Board of Trustees of IOBM, Bashir Jan Muhammad, Honorable Deputy Governor, Saleem Ullah Saab, Jahangir Siddiqui Saab, who is the sponsor of Bank Islami in Pakistan and also the board member of IOBM, respected presidents of Islamic banks, fellow community from Islamic banking, Sharia scholars, students, and all the international scholars who are presenting papers on this conference today and tomorrow. I think firstly I like to congratulate firstly I like to give my salam to all of you and also like to congratulate the IOBM for holding the 8th International Conference of Islamic Banking and Finance. So this is a massive achievement, and I remember attending this conference even during the times of COVID. And I'm honored and privileged to be part of this conference for almost all these 8 years, and I think almost over half of them I have been a speaker. So thank you, Talib Saab and IOBM for inviting me again. Today, I requested the management of IOBM that there should be new people and new faces who should be representing Islamic banking on this conference, and I requested them to excuse me for today, but Talib Saab said this is not an option. So he ordered me to stand up here and try to address you. So I have few things which I like to share with you, which is my perspective about the innovation, sustainability, growth, and transformation of Islamic banking and finance in Pakistan. When I was sitting here, I saw my friend Fareed, I and Fareed and few other colleagues from Central Bank with the permission and on the direction of the then executive director, who is now executive director for Islamic banking, Samar Hasnain Saab, asked us to visit certain countries which are working either completely or partially on Islamic banking and finance system. So we visited number of countries. So during that visit, I learned that a journey among 3-4 countries started together in 1984 of Islamizing the entire banking system and economic system in all these countries. And what I recall that these countries were Pakistan, Sudan, Iran, and Malaysia. So during that study and based on the latest figures, I realized that as of today, Alhamdulillah, 22.7% of the banking deposits are Sharia compliant. So our share in terms of deposits is 22.7%. My friend Yusuf and my friend Atif recently mentioned about what is happening in Malaysia, which is definitely a developed Islamic finance market over there. Roughly, the share of Islamic banking is 46%. But during that visit, we also realized that the share of Islamic banking in Sudan, which embarked on the same journey at the same time in 1984, is 100%. So my friends, the reason for sharing this is that this is absolutely practical to have a 100% Sharia compliant system, because there is one country where almost half of the system is Sharia compliant. There is another country where 100% of the Islamic finance system is being used for meeting the entire financial and economic needs of that country. Now, I like to take a step back and connect this 1984 effort with the Constitution of Pakistan. So, Article 227 of the Constitution of Pakistan, the 1970 Constitution, mandated that all laws of Pakistan should be or must be rather, in compliance with the principles of Quran and Sunnah. And I think that was the enabling provision under which the 1984 effort started. It was not a successful effort, but I like to mention here, and I like to thank Dr. Ishrat Husain, who revitalized and reinitiated that effort in 2002 by giving the Islamic banking license to Mizan Bank, which was then an investment bank with a one branch. Now, alhamdulillah, that one branch has transformed into 1,015 branches with almost 3 trillion rupees of assets on its balance sheet. So in terms of market capitalization, it is the largest Islamic bank. So sir, your guidance, your support, your effort to Islamic banking again in 2002 has led to this success of Islamic banking. And it's not just Mizan Bank, there are so many other banks who has joined that effort, including Bank Islami, Al Baraka, DIB, very recently Faisal Bank. And I'll come to the Faisal Bank growth and transformation story in a minute. And now this journey is continuing. And interestingly, with this journey, there are few other enabling provisions which the regulator and the government gave to the Islamic banking professional and the Sharia scholars and the students of Islamic finance, which were like very recently in 2022, the Federal Sharia Court again ruled that riba is prohibited. And this is in continuation of an earlier ruling of 1991, whereby the Federal Sharia Court then also ruled and also defined what is riba and said it is prohibited. Now there is something very interesting which has recently happened, which is the insertion of Article 38F in the Constitution of Pakistan, which has been done this year, 2024. And according to that enabling provision or a directive provision, there is a requirement to eliminate riba from the entire banking and financial system of Pakistan. So I think as far as the challenges which are concerned for the transformation of banking or economic system into an Islamic banking and economic system, the first step or first enabling provision is the presence of a regulatory framework or a legal framework. I think that is pretty much there. There is some effort which need to be done, but that is pretty much there. We have a 2003 Islamic banking regulatory framework issued by Central Bank of Pakistan. Central Bank is also working on enabling the banking company ordinance with reference to more provisions relating to Islamic banking. But I think as far as the regulatory and policy framework of Pakistan is concerned, it is absolutely possible to transform the Islamic banking system, to transform the entire banking system into Islamic banking system. Now, there are few other challenges which are definitely there, on which I would suggest that the conference speaker should dwell on, the Sharia scholar should dwell on, which relates to some innovation in the product development piece. The best thing is, as of today, almost every single conventional bank has an Islamic banking window. So every single bank is ready to leapfrog, to transform entirely into an Islamic bank. But some more innovation is needed with reference to Government of Pakistan Sukuk. Right now, we are only issuing Ijara Sukuk. And just to give you a perspective that Government of Pakistan as of today has 47 trillion rupees of domestic debt. Of this, only 10% is issued under the GOP Ijara mode, which is 4.7 trillion. So it's only a fraction. So if we are looking to transform the entire banking system into an Islamic banking system, there is a need to come up with solutions, innovative structures and products which are Sharia compliant and which enables the government to meet its fiscal needs in a Sharia compliant manner, and on the other hand, provide liquidity management instrument to the banking system and economic system to manage the liquidity in the system in a Sharia compliant manner. One very important aspect which my friend Atif just touched upon was about human resources, and such human resources which has expertise in Islamic banking and finance. So I think this is one thing which is very important. I like to appreciate and congratulate IOBM for setting up a center of excellence, which was set up in collaboration with Bank Islami when I was part of Bank Islami, and Bank Islami is now still working with IOBM. Mizan Bank has already partnered with Institute of Business Administration, and it's supporting the Center of Islamic Excellence with all other Islamic banks jointly. In Institute of Business Administration, there is a Center of Islamic Excellence in LUMS and IMS Peshawar also. I think there are enough institutions on ground to train these human resources, and I would say we are on the right track, but this is something where we have to focus on. We have to put more energy and effort so that when, inshallah, in January 2028, the entire banking system is Islamic, there is enough supply of professional bankers who understand the Sharia principles, that how these Sharia principles are applied to the subject of Islamic banking and finance. Last thing which I like to touch upon, which also directly relates with the theme of this conference, is sustainability. So the definition of sustainability is very wide, and to me, there are three types of sustainability efforts we have to put in as an Islamic banker, as a student of Islamic finance, and citizens of this country. One is environmental sustainability, that we have to ensure that we don't destroy our environment, we don't destroy our climate. And we have seen the effects which mankind has created by increasing the global temperatures, leading to global warming, and the impact which it has currently even on Pakistan. We can see that. We have seen the devastating floods 2 years ago, and we are now experiencing very poor air quality index, roughly 1900 to 2000 range in Lahore and Multan. So the effects are very clear, and unfortunately, if you go to the website of Probable Futures, which shows what is happening across the globe with reference to climate change, Pakistan is among the worst hit geographies on world map. So we have to be more cautious about our environmental sustainability. The next is economic sustainability. You cannot be actually focused on ensuring or achieving environmental sustainability unless you have an economic sustainability. So we have booms and busts always in our economy. So we have to make our economy sustainable. Islamic finance is definitely a best way to move forward. But we need to have a growth in our economy which is continuous, which is sustainable, and which is not destroying the ecosystem and the economic resources and the natural resources. So it should be an effort which is regenerative, recyclable, and it can go on and on in like a chain reaction. And the last one definitely, which should be an outcome of both of these, is social sustainability. So we are a country of 241 million people. Almost 38% of the people live either at or below the poverty line, which is a difficult situation. Almost 38% of our population is illiterate, and double whammy is it's not just illiterate, it's also unskilled. So we have to put in an effort to either educate the population which is in that age, and there is a segment of population which is above 15 years of age, which is really considered illiterate. According to the definition, anybody who is over 15 years of age and is illiterate is considered illiterate. So for these I would say for this segment of the society, whether women or men, we have to impart vocational training to them. And Mizan Bank is doing an excellent effort in imparting vocational training to the youth. Right now, over 1,000 students are being trained at NED University. We are in the process of entering further MOUs because we believe that by imparting them skills, we make them a productive component of our society. So social sustainability, which means poverty alleviation, and enabling our population to earn for themselves and to contribute into the GDP of the country is extremely important. So all these efforts, I think if you look at all of these things, they are all interconnected. And any single effort which any institution, specifically Islamic banking institution, is doing in this country is actually connected to each other and creating an impact. What is now more important is to accelerate that effort so that we just not become a sustainable society and a country and an economy, but also a Sharia compliant financial economic system. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mohammed sir. Our next speaker, Mr. Razwan Atta, is a seasoned leader in Islamic and commercial banking. He has held senior roles at Mizan Bank, Bank Al Falah, and Emirates Bank, and is currently president and CEO of Bank Islami Pakistan Limited. Sir.
Thank you so much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. My respect to the chief guest, honorable patrons, my fellow CEOs of the bank, Islamic banks, and guests. Little bit about the flag of Pakistan, which presents green color, which is the Muslim population, and the white color, which presents the minority. Recently, Bank Islami has launched a campaign which is covering not only the Muslim population, but also attracting the non-Muslim population of Pakistan, which are minorities, because Islamic banking is based upon the ethics, which are acceptable to all the Muslims, non-Muslims, and are working for the multinational companies that we finance to the places, to the companies. They do ethical production about their waste, pollution, and other things. Now I will take you forward to 2028 because most of my colleagues, they have already covered many things. Are we ready for the sustainability and the growth of Islamic finance? Yes. Let's go to the Jan 2028 and we talk about what international support is available for Islamic finance. IOFI standards, yes, and they are standardized. And our regulator has already implemented many IOFI standards and few more are recently done. And obviously the other international research is being done on Islamic finance. Number two, our own regulator in Pakistan. It's also ready for 2028 because there is an Islamic department and which is having a very solid Sharia framework. And Dr. Samar Saab is here. I think the State Bank is also ready for 2028. And we have about, at the total Islamic banking on total industry, which all the banks will be converted into Islamic finance. We have about 18,000 branches so far. And in 2 years' time, 3 year time, another 2,000 branches will be there. So we'll be having about 20,000 branches catering 250 million population and about and now the other thing is the point of sale are around 150,000 in Pakistan and digitalization in the country. Our parent bank, GS Bank also owns the Zindagi you might have seen. It has a 6 million users. It's a digital app. Bank Islami is also bringing up an app which will be catering the large population through digital channels. My request to all my colleagues and religious scholars that we have to make the processes more digital because things are getting away from the papers. We download the app, we accept through digital channel, and we download the app. Likewise, we should be having contracts which should be accepted by digital channels. The application on the mobile with the companies must accept the Marhaba and Istasna and other products without signing the papers. I think we are ready for it. Our customers are ready for it, and we need to really go to the change which will be totally digital and make it more sustainable and easy for our customer to use and expand very quickly. The other thing I would like to say that Islamic finance will be successful when the entire ecosystem of Islamic finance will be available in Pakistan. We are also ready for it if we consider the asset management companies, the Thaqafal companies, and the main challenge which will remain for the conversion, which is the 30 trillion rupees of PIBs and TB bills. And I think that will be a bigger challenge for the government and regulator to provide those solutions, which is the placement of the bonds and replace the bonds with the skooks. And I'm sure with the time passing and new innovative products are coming in terms of the skooks, I think we'll be able to cater, inshallah, the major interest-based placements of Pakistan and Pakistani banks into the bonds, which is not far, and very innovative things are coming. Number two, the banks and the conventional bank and Islamic bank must think about the long-term investments and the infrastructure development in Pakistan. I haven't seen any bank which is coming up with the product, Islamic or conventional, thinking about the infrastructure development 20 to 30 years, because the infrastructure developments are more, they take time, their break even are late. So we should be working on it as a bankers, and we need a regulator support in the PRs, because if we invest for long term, that has a 100% capital charge. And to make Islamic banking viable and sustainable, and our investment into infrastructure, which is a large amount, will be needing regulatory support. The public is ready, response is very good. The SBP data said, which I've read, about 80% of the personal loans, consumer loans, which is the housing and auto, are being taken by Islamic board by the people, and 20% on the other board, which is conventional, which is a very good news. It means at individual level, the public of Pakistan, we are ready to convert the entire system into Islamic. So it is not far that all the regulators, the government, and the banks and conventional banks will be ready to provide 100% Sharia compliance solution in near future, inshallah. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you, Rizwan sir. If I could ask everyone at the back to please be a little respectful to the speeches happening on stage. We have last few speeches left, and after that we can all network. So if I could ask everybody standing at the back to find a seat and be as quiet as possible. Thank you very much. Our next speaker, very dear to us, Mr. Bashir Jan Mohammed, Chancellor, Institute of Business Management, and Chairman, Westbury Group. Sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dr. Sassan Saab, Deputy Governor Saab, CEOs of the bank, Talib Karim Saab, my colleague Jahangir Siddiqui Saab, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. First of all, let me confess that I am not a scholar or more knowledge about Islamic banks or Islamic system going on nowadays. But I have certain questions. And I would like this seminar to kindly address the questions, which are very short. First question mine is this, that whatever we are doing Islamic bank, is it truly Islamic? Most of the banks are doing agreements of ready buying and future selling. Most of the banks secure their own profits. They don't look at the customer, but they look at the profits. With due respect to my old friend, because all of my friends and they're all scholars, of course, Dr. Ishrat Saab is a guru in the matter. But generally, I have read also some of the documents, because I'm also a client of Islamic Bank. Most of the documents, most of the legal framework is in the favor of the banks and not in the favor of customers. So my question will be this, that sir, if we are changing just a mode or changing the name from interest to markup, it will not the surplus unless we are going on for the business of profit and loss both. Only profit doesn't mean profit. I was in 2 years back I was in London and I went to a bank, a Jewish bank. I would like to ask a question, why the Jewish bank are opening Islamic counters? Because they see this to be more secured. They see it to be more profitable. What is their interest in Islamic bank? What is the Islamic that Jewish, but Jewish are doing it? I don't understand why. However, coming to that, let me say what are the problems. Dr. Saab is here. Our accounting system is most weak in the most of the countries where Islamic banking are there. Our tax system is so high, 55% to 60% corporate tax, direct and indirect. How many of our balance sheets are true? I as a chartered accountant, I've seen many balance sheets and how the Islamic bank can trust this balance sheet? Again the question comes. This is a defense Islamic bank. Therefore what they do, Mustareka or whatever, I would like to ask all the friends here, how many clients were given loan for 10 years or 20 years? And my answer, Dr. Saab can throw light on that. Why? I was and Jangir Siddiqui were together in Picket. And we used to give 20 years and 15 years loan. Who is giving the long-term loan today? The question has been asked by all the friends that we need economic prosperity. Yes, we do need economic prosperity. Economic prosperity will only come when we have to see long-term. If you are only going to see short-term, how many banks, conventional or Islamic, are giving long-term loans? No. Of course, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, I can be corrected for that. But you know, the real concept, and now again, I had a Laksa meeting and he came to me, Dr. Zakir Husain. So he said, when Islamic bank pays 2% less to you in profit, please give money to him. One person stood up. He said, yes, I'm willing to suffer. But what you are offering me against that? Because the reason is this, the markup rate of Islamic bank deposit rate is generally lower than the conventional bank. I don't understand the reason. Of course, there will be reason for that. Number two, as a Muslim, I will never support riba. Or nobody can support riba. But let me ask you, if I am asked to sign a paper where I am the bank forecasts my profit, which are not real profit, right or wrong, is it the Islamic banking? I had a full paper Islamic banking. After listening to my friend who are more knowledgeable than me, and the gentleman coming after me, Dr. Ishrat Husain, is 100% guru on the line, I'm not commenting on that part. But my question still stands. And this question stands with everybody in the world. Malaysia. A big example is given of Malaysia. I have been to Malaysia for the last 50 years. I have seen their banking system growing. But I have not seen their banking sector growing mostly in corporate sector. It is mostly growing in the retail sector. And of course, the poor man is more Islamic than me, let me tell you. He knows more about Islam than me because he has the time to do so. So, you know, many retailers go for the Islamic banking. I must, Laksa, with due apology of what I said. I think I wanted to speak on the line. But still, I believe And it's my honest belief that Islamic banking is answer to the future, provided we make it through Islamic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. If I could now invite Dr. Ishrat Husain, who is a distinguished economist and former Governor of State Bank. Currently, he is Professor Emeritus at IBA Karachi, and he chairs the Center for Excellence in Islamic Finance. Sir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Mr. Saleem Ullah, Mr. Bashir Jan Muhammad, Mr. Talib Karim, Presidents of the Islamic banks, foreign delegates, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me first of all say that Mr. Bashir Jan Muhammad has raised some very pertinent questions. And I hope that the conference during the next 2 days would take it seriously to address these questions, because these are not his questions, but I've heard this from many others throughout the country where I travel a lot. So we owe it to him and to the others who have skepticism about Islamic finance as to how this can be actually a true model of what our religion and the Sharia scholars want it to be. I would also like to commend the IOBM for organizing this conference at a very critical juncture when we have to embark upon a journey towards a full-fledged Islamic banking system by January 28. I find a lot of complacency and self-congratulations that we will be able to cross this hurdle. Let me be very frank, and let me allow me to be candid, as the purpose of my talk is to give a wake-up call. It is quite easy for judiciary and the legislature to have given the directives and the declaration, which is the easiest part, that by this time you shift to the whole banking system, transform into an Islamic system. That's the easiest part. The most difficult part is how this transition takes place, and that lies in the executive branch, the industry players, and the society at large. If adequate preparations are not made, and the behavior and mindset are not altered, I'm afraid the new system will become formally compliant, but in my view, it will substantively miss the spirit behind this conversion. I am afraid that only the State Bank and the Ministry of Finance are taking the lead in this effort, and I congratulate them. They have formed various working groups on the various aspects, and the work is going on. But the remaining ministries, the provincial governments, and the implementing agencies are not sharing the same commitment and the same passion towards Islamic conversion. And if I'm not right, please make me aware of this, because I go and talk to everybody, but it seems to be a silo approach where the whole effort is the Ministry of Finance and the State Bank of Pakistan. What has the executive got to do? And I would touch on some points that Mr. Bashir Jan Muhammad has raised. The present legal system, the laws, the precedents, the training of lawyers and judges are historically and heavily tilted towards the common law inherited by the British. Contract enforcement and dispute resolution mechanisms are lengthy, cumbersome, and very costly, with almost access denied to the poor. And the Islamic financial system can take credit only if every segment of the population, rich or the poor, can get justice in a fair and inexpensive manner. I'm not sure that our legal system and the courts and the lawyers are really ready for that. We have multiple layers and too many appellates. When I went to Swat after the Taliban or somebody like Mufti Maulana, what was his name, Saki Muhammad had taken over, and the people told me that we were supporting him because under the Swat Wali system, the Qazi used to take decisions in 3 or 4 days, which were quick and very fair. And that's why we supported Mufti Maulana Saab in order to establish that system. So the judicial legal system has to be completely changed from what it is today. Second, and this is what Mr. Bashir Jan Muhammad said, and I agree with him, the present tax system is highly arbitrary, regressive, discretionary, and penalizes honest and compliant taxpayers. Evasion, cheating, falsification of records, fake receipts and invoices, over-invoicing, under-invoicing, misdeclaration of value are the outcomes of the present taxation system. Do we foresee any drastic change in this present system where equitable, fair, and progressive taxation is enacted and going to be practiced? I do not see any evidence at present to convince me that we are moving in that direction where the taxation system is going to be compatible with the Islamic financial system. Third, the regulatory burden, and I'm not referring, everybody refers to the state bank, but the regulatory burden on the businesses and the arbitrary discretionary powers exercised by the officials, the petty officials of labor, health, environment, drug inspectors, building control inspectors, sub-registrars, has created an ecosystem where bargaining to the mutual advantage of the regulator and the business takes place as a routine. A poor man cannot have access to any regulatory agency because he doesn't have the connections or he has no capacity to bribe the officials. Regulations are violated and consumers suffer because of that. Have we thought whether the present conduct of the regulatory officers would facilitate conduct of transparent, honest transactions, which is the cornerstone of the Islamic finance? Now coming to the society, and this is a tall agenda. We are all Muslims, and we believe in life hereafter, where we would be accountable for our deeds. If the fear of Allah Almighty has not deterred us from indulging in all malpractices, we sell adulterated food, we produce spurious drugs, we weigh short, we use substandard material for our buildings, we swear to deliver goods in time but never do that, we commit to make payments for goods and services but keep on dillying and dallying and at times misappropriate that amount. How do we expect them to change their behavior in the next 3 years just because we have switched to the Islamic financial system? You very well know that the base trust is the basis of risk sharing in Islamic mode of finance. If our borrowers maintain 3 sets of books, one for themselves, the second for the tax collectors, and the third for their partners and investors, don't you think that Islamic banking would be faced soon with non-performing loans, erosion of capital, and finally bankruptcy? Do we envisage that under the new Islamic system, we will continue to depend only on murabaha, which is a cost-plus financing? Would this dominant mode allow us to reach to the pyramid, the bottom of the pyramid, the poorest of the poor? In the remote areas of Pakistan, 40% of the population is below the poverty line. And my test is whether the Islamic financial system is going to reduce the incidence of poverty in next 10 years from 40% to 20%. That is the test. If they are not going to do this, I don't think the Islamic financial system is achieving the purpose for which it is being installed. We do not have either assets or commodities, these poor people, to do the transactions. Are the banks ready to move towards cash flow lending or program lending to provide access to small farmers or SMEs? This is now the challenge for the industry players. Diminishing musharaka, in my view, is a very powerful instrument for promoting housing finance. Why is it that the existing Islamic banks and branches have not made use of this instrument at a wider scale? Mortgage finance still today forms a minuscule part of their portfolio. I don't want to get into the climate finance because Yusuf has already pointed out this, but my concern is, are the Islamic financial industry staff equipped to manage risks arising from the climate finance? Now, the government has really accelerated the issuance of sukuks, and I think they will continue to do so in the future. But do we have the volume of assets which underlie the sukuks for converting almost 43 trillion rupees of the outstanding PIBs and T-bills? And is deficit financing by the government an acceptable proposition under the Islamic finance? Is the Islamic banking industry going to take the place of the conventional banks in financing the deficits of the government rather than investing in productive sectors of the economy, helping the productivity in agriculture, bringing up new industries which the country needs, create employment opportunities in the services sector and in the education, health sectors? What about international banking relationships? Are these going to remain intact, or are they going to undergo some metamorphosis under the new system? Do we understand that the changes that have to take place to stay part of the international system without disrupting the existing relationships? Has anybody thought about this? How do we remain part of the international financial system? Because that is our prerogative to do things for the betterment of the country. You cannot be an insular economy, inward looking. You have to participate in international trade and flows. But will the Islamic financial system will allow us to do this, or we have to make some changes? Now, this point has been raised so many times, so I will be very brief. Have we considered that the talent which is working now in 80% of the conventional banking, would be ready to become a true Islamic banking professional in 3 years' time? Do we have qualified trainers who are well conversant both with the Islamic jurisprudence and modern banking, who would be able to work on these 80% conventional banking staff to make them Islamic banking? Will they change their mindset? Because to me, it is the mindset of Islamic banking, and I congratulate the existing Islamic banks because they have done a great job in transforming the mindset of the staff, which is different from the conventional banks. What about the Sharia scholars? Is there an adequate supply or pipeline of Sharia scholars who would be able to form the Sharia boards for 24 banks, which will be converted into the Islamic banks? The country, as you know, has a huge challenge in our human development. 25 million of our children are out of school. Literacy rate is 60% only. Learning poverty is rampant. Stunting of children is 40%. Infant and mortality rates are high. Is the commercial Islamic financial industry have they thought of working, or they have the plans to work with the fintechs, with Islamic microfinance, with the charity, with philanthropy, with zakat, with sadaqah, with qarz hasna, with the waqf to tackle these challenges? Have they piloted any blended financing operation that can be subsequently scaled up throughout the country to make an impact? We all have been talking about quite for some time for this blending, but I haven't seen a ground evidence. I go all over the country, but I haven't seen any evidence that blended financing is helping solve these problems which I have pointed out to you. I do appreciate the trust of the Islamic banks using the penalty and fines for qarz hasna and scholarships for deserving poor students. But this has been on a sporadic, but not a systematic basis, on a collective basis. Is it permissible to use these funds for research and development? Because we need computers and science labs and equipment and materials and reagents, because if we have to make progress in the 21st century, we have to invest in research and development. Can these funds be earmarked for research and development? I don't know, but I'm posing a question for the Sharia scholars. I have taken the liberty of using this August gathering of senior government officials, industry executives, academics, and leading businessmen to raise these daunting issues. I hope that you would at least begin to reflect upon this and take immediate actions, because January 2028 is not far off. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in inviting our chief guest, Mr. Saleem Ullah, Deputy Governor of the State Bank of Pakistan, to the stage. Sir.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Very respectable Dr. Ishrat, my and many others mentor, Dr. Bashir Jan Muhammad Sahab, Talib Kareem Sahab, my dear friends Yusuf Sahab, Amir Sahab, and Rizwan Sahab, and other colleagues. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's very difficult to speak after the legends Dr. Ishrat, and the very pertinent questions both Dr. Ishrat and Dr. Bashir Jan Muhammad has raised. So Yes, these are real gigantic tasks. This transformation that we are pursuing, both based on the directives of the Sharia Code 2 years back, and now with the amendment in the Constitution, it's a very gigantic task. And all stakeholders, be it the government, be it the regulatory bodies, including the State Bank, SCCP, and others, the banking community, the financial sector, the business sector, they will all have to work together in a collaborative manner to achieve this gigantic task. And for that to achieve, first and foremost thing is that let's first have that belief that yes, the system that we are going to transform and the system we are aiming to achieve is something of value. The kind of questions we have been witnessing is the result of our sort of a disbelief. We are not that sure. We are still tentative. We may be or may not be able to achieve these objectives. So that belief will have to be there. By now, in the last 3 decades, not only in Pakistan, but across the globe, the focus have been that let's give a Sharia alternative of the conventional products. All our energies have been diverted towards this very focus. Have we tried to come up with a value proposition that is something based on the very objectives of all these prescriptions given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? A very pertinent ayah recited in the beginning. وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا. So, have we tried to achieve the real objectives of this? We have not tried to do that so far. But right now, to me, although there are very pertinent issues and challenges as narrated by Dr. Ishrat Saab, as well as by Dr. Bashir Saab. But one silver lining which I can see, that when you have these constitutional requirements, then the whole ecosystem has to transform and has to contribute in the achievement of that very goal. So that gives me some silver lining and some hope that we will be able to develop that ecosystem where we can achieve the objectives of a true Islamic economic system. I won't say the banking system. Banking system is just a component of the economic system. So we'll have to see in terms of the economic system, if we can have such a fair, just, transparent, and caring economic system that is carrying value for all the stakeholders, the society as at large, the system that is ensuring broad-based prosperity. That sort of a system, you see that it's not just that we are able to eliminate this riba by resorting to these trade-based modes of financing of muraba and some other modes. I'm not undermining the importance of this. Yes, that they have made their own contribution. But the real essence will come when we will focus our efforts in achieving the true objectives of the Islamic economic system, and the system that is fairer, that is just, and that is enabling all the stakeholders to improve their living standards, their income levels, their overall life in this society. So that is a big, gigantic task, and we will all have to work towards achievement of that goal. This event is also being organized at a very pertinent moment, that at the same time we would see that there is a COP29 being held in Baku, and there the world leaders are just gathered there to see that how can we discipline ourselves, because the kind of environment we are witnessing, it is the indiscipline that we have exercised in our overall approach towards development. And particularly the developed world, let me say this, they are the preachers of very high standards of ethics and transparency and governance. But what they have done to the environment, just to build their industrial might, they have ruined the overall world ecosystem and the world overall environment. It is the cost of that indiscipline and that irresponsible development that has been that we have witnessed in so many decades. I would say in the last century, so that we have reached to this point. And the the environmentalists and the environmental scientists, they have been warning us that we are heading towards a disaster, but nobody was listening. And now everybody was accepting that this is an existential risk. And this Islamic finance, by its very nature, it's an ethical finance. It cannot allow to indulge in such partnerships with such businesses that is damaging the environment. So the kind of realization that the world has just made now, it was available to in our principles centuries back, but we didn't give value to those systems. And one last thing that I would like to emphasize, that we will have to take this inferiority complex out of us. The inferiority complex is that probably the conventional economic system is the supreme. And that's why we are trying to mold the Islamic economic system in a way that it fits into the conventional scale or a circle. So that inferiority complex has to be taken out, and this conference, let me say this provides an excellent opportunity. Let's ponder about in our panel discussions, in our debates. Let's see that how can we come up with the answers to these questions that are being raised. And these questions are being raised by very sincere people. So unless we have that conviction and that faith that we have to create and develop a system that is fair, that is just, that is equitable, and that is taking care of the environment as well, then probably all these forums will not be producing that much of value. So we must have that focus, and let's see that how can we come up with the answers to these questions, and can we give to the world a system that people say that this is whatever faith they are having, they could compel to say that I am getting a better value from the system. If my system is providing a better value, then whatever be your faith, people will be opting for it and adopting for it. I hope that the conference deliberations will be directed in that way, that we develop answers to these questions and come up with such recommendations which guide us towards answering these questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge and thank Professor Ehsan Iqbal Chaudhry, Minister for Planning, Development and Special Initiatives, Government of Pakistan. He tried his best to attend. He committed and he wanted to withstand with his commitment, but unfortunately, he fell very ill. He even committed to, he tried to connect with us online, but that just couldn't materialize because of his ill health. Please join me in showing our gratitude and also wishing him a speedy recovery. To conclude this inaugural session, I would like to ask Talib Sahab and Mr. Jahangir Siddiqui to come on stage to give out a memento of our appreciation. First, to our chief guest, Mr. Saleem Ullah. If I could invite Dr. Kabir Hassan, our first speaker for this morning. Mr. Yusuf Hassan, President CEO, Faisal Bank Limited. Mr. Syed Amir Ali, Deputy CEO, Mizan Bank Limited. Mr. Rizwan Atta, President and CEO, Bank Islamic Pakistan Private Limited. Mr. Bashir Jan Mohammed, Chancellor IOPM. Dr. Ishrat Husain. Dr. Ishrat Husain, sir. If I could ask all speakers to gather at the front of the stage for a group photograph. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our inaugural session. After tea, we have two parallel sessions, one happening here in the ballroom and another in Sumbul Hall. The details are in your programs. You're welcome to join any of the tracks that are happening. Please join us outside for some light refreshments and networking. Thank you very much.